I think one other, it could also fall under ugly, bad, or good is the topic of AI. I think
it's good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are seeing a lot of potential for efficiency. From a bad or an ugly perspective, I think a lot of the applications we're just throwing out there without any kind of safety net. I think organizations that don't have very solid principles might make resource decisions that they'll regret in hindsight. I think there's a pressure also from a more capitalistic shareholder perspective. We expect you to fire a bunch of people now that you have AI. Whether that's smart or not is a different story. I think that runs the gamut. What's your take on AI?
I think it's a powerful tool that we have to engage with. It's one of the forces that is front and center. It's not something that you could just kind of bury your head in the sand and ignore. One area where I think is still immature is around, for lack of better words, regulation. I think that the Dubai government in particular, as you look at it, is actually a leader in this area where they've adopted a standard definition when it comes to content. And and you see it, like on LinkedIn and in interacting with organizations. My daughter's working within an organization, and they're struggling with, to what extent do we use AI when we're writing proposals? For example, do we let ChatGPT write out a proposal? And then the donor organizations, when they see this, what are they going to think, right? So the government of Dubai, a few weeks ago, I think maybe a month ago, launched a new classification where, specifically related to content. Is it human-led? Is it human-led but AI influenced? Or is it AI-led? And these type of innovative solutions where you're looking at how can governments add value? It's exactly that. It's looking at how do we govern this in a way to ensure that human beings are enabled, protected, and empowered as well, because it's not just simply about replacing. I think that the future to me is human and machine. It's not either human or machine.
I think it needs to be. I think I agree with you. I think AI from an operational efficiency perspective has a lot of potential. There's a lot of dangers that I don't think most people have thought of and are aware of. The whole principle of how much of it is what's the veracity of the data that I'm getting. Also, the potential of losing. Not having sufficient thought in making decisions on how you interact, for example, with client complaints. I was just talking to my wife this morning, and she says, she's already facing automated systems where she knows what she needs, but it's not working, and she can't talk to anybody because everything's automated. Which is that kind of. I don't know if you're familiar with that show Little Britain, where they have the sketch where this one person is sitting at the computer. No matter what you ask them, his computer says no. And that's, I think, a danger that we face. And I think another thing which I think both project management, Agile, Six Sigma, Lean, and also AI will suffer if they don't watch out. I think the people who stand to gain a lot from selling it are hyping it to a certain degree that I don't believe it's even possible to fulfill that expectation. That's one extreme, and I think there might be kind of a where you get kind of jaded in a couple of years down the road. We say it didn't deliver everything it promised. I think that's part of it, and I think the other real big challenge is I think most people are parroting the statement, yes, it's valuable, it's going to create more efficiency, it's going to change the world. But I still think that most organizations from an operational perspective still don't know how to make the thing work.
Yeah. Let me make 3 comments specifically around AI that dovetail into some of the points that you made. First is AI has been around for a while. It's not new. And generative AI is one use case that there are plenty of other areas, especially when you start looking at AI and robotics and a whole variety of technologies that converge. There's not enough understanding, I think, in the ecosystem of all of the different ways that organizations can leverage AI. There is a lot of hype around generative AI because it's front and center, it's consumer driven, it's interesting, and it's new. So we have to understand that it's not just one area, but it's a broad topic. The second element is related to AI when it comes to the ChatGPT version, where we're talking about generative AI. If you are dealing with individuals who are not experts in a particular field and you don't know what you're looking at, there's a huge risk, right? So if I am interested in the topic of microbiology and I don't really know much about microbiology, and I'm researching something and I'm taking whatever output I'm getting as if it's gospel and I'm not challenging it, not because I'm lazy, but because I genuinely don't understand anything, I need that expert to validate that information. I've been using ChatGPT extensively, especially in terms of analysis, looking at data. If you're not checking behind the system, sometimes you get lulled into thinking that the insights that you're getting are real. And then when you start looking at the data, you realize that there's something quite wrong because you're not. And again, it's not necessarily that the AI is doing a bad job or hallucinating, although there are certain instances of that, but there is a human role in that is critical to that. If you're talking about geology, you need someone who knows geology to be able to validate that information. Otherwise, you can try it out for project management topics. Not everything that it's giving you.
What you're alluding to is very, very powerful philosophical discussion around: do we even know what is AI supposed to relieve us of?
Yeah.
And where is the human factor, and where do we stay in the whole process? I think
that brings me to the third comment that I made. I bet you that if you look back 10, 15 years ago, when we look at artificial intelligence, a lot of what we were thinking about was robotics as well. I need AI to help me do the dishes or do the laundry much more than write a poem for something or another, or write a song. And yet the novelty of that is great, but let's talk about practicality. And I think that we're losing something like, yes, I can replace a creative field type of person, but is that really the best use of that? And obviously, a lot of people in the creative arts area are very disturbed by the fact that you've got these systems like ChatGPT and others who are, there's a lot of vagueness around that intellectual property. And, there are people who are complaining that these AI systems are, for lack of better words, stealing IP. And again, as a non-expert, if I ask my AI, draw me a picture, I don't really know whether they're stealing somebody else's picture or whether they're creating something new. The way that we interact with it makes us almost believe that we're actually interacting with an intelligent system. And I think that it's not quite there yet. I think there's a difference between real intelligence and artificial intelligence.
There's many forms of intelligence. I think one would have to have a concept which intelligence is one talking about. I think every once in a while when I deal with artificial intelligence, I'm kind of shocked by how non-intelligent it is, based on my expectations of what it should do, and also partly my prompting. I
am a fan, and I'm definitely not of the Skynet variety of individuals who are worried about doom and gloom scenarios, but I'm also realistic in terms of how we need to approach it as well.
But you know what, I think that just makes the whole AI journey more interesting. Is that it's fraught with challenges and dangers, but it's going to challenge humanity to grow, and sometimes in the wrong direction, but hopefully then also back into the right direction. I think there's a lot of promise. I would also say, if we were to follow up on the generation thing, I think one of the things that's really, really good about our discipline is there's lots of new topics that are expanded into our project management field, be it business analysis. That's also not new, but we're making forward progress there. The new PMO practice guide is a sensational step in the right direction. I think it was one of the missing links. I'm going to have Mark Lyons and Scott Ambler on one of my next podcasts to talk about the originators of Discipline Agile. I know that among some of the hardcore practitioners, Discipline Agile is considered the graduate level of Agile. I'm also going to have a follow-up conversation with Joshua Barnes after them, because Joshua Barnes is the PMI product owner that's going to talk about, there's a lot of changes going on with Discipline Agile. Where's it going to go? So those are examples of I think what's exciting, even if some of it is not as new as we sometimes pretend it is. I think that we're repackaging, rebirthing a lot of the things that you and I worked with 30 years ago for the new generation to make it viable and maybe more applicable, more efficient. I think this is part of the real good thing in project management. I think if you just mentioned your son is in the last year of college. My two boys are just finishing up their bachelor's as well. I think this is an exciting era to be in. I still think that project management is an exciting career path. So I think there's a lot of promise